So, well, it's been a bit of a journey, isn't it? From satellite to vertical farms. So, if you can join me in welcoming back our esteemed speakers today, we're going to just open up for a brief, panel discussion. And as we've gone, on a bit of a journey, I would like to start with, a common, topic that you guys all discussed, which is climate change. So can you, maybe starting from Mark, just in order, can you just tell us a bit of, as you know, climate change is posing significant risk to global food security, from agriculture to, vertical farms. How do your respective initiatives and technologies address first, climate resilience, and you think, help farmers to actually adapt to growing, food in challenging conditions?
So firstly, from the perspective of the farmers, our systems don't exist on their own. Our systems are there to help purchasers buy food that is being produced, but importantly can sit alongside existing farmers in the manner in which we can control, in the environment that we have, a nursery function for their crops. So we have a capacity to support the existing supply chain, the existing food chain. It's all about ecosystems, as I said earlier. It is not a one-stop shop fits all. It is about using the technology, using what we can do within a controlled environment to make a massive difference to the survivability rate of the crops that we hand on to the existing farming community. Beyond that, for the sustainability of what the system itself does, no pesticides, no herbicides, a far, far minimal, over 90% less water utilization to grow the same amount of crop, a far more effective and carbon footprint from the transport of the food to the point of consumption, particularly if you supply the power into the farm from a renewable source. We should be out from our own perspective in the next month with our LCA about really pointing out the carbon footprint and how much lower our carbon footprint is than a traditional ecosystem.
Amazing, and I love that you touched on LCA, which is life cycle assessment, which we're going to get into a second, later, but just to again, level up a little bit the knowledge here. So, Dave, can you just tell us also how do you envision, satellite to be able to help, farmers really with this?
Yeah, so it's from a climate change resiliency question or perspective. The big applications that we have right now is the connected weather stations. So that provides, microclimate data on a field-by-field basis. And, the farmers right now, they know the weather's changing, right? But how is it exactly going to impact that particular field or whatnot? And without having the data to understand what's happening, right, they don't know what to do, right? They don't know how to kind of, combat climate change. Also applications where you have probes in the ground that monitor and determine moisture content or mineral content and whatnot. So basically, if you have the data, then you can take action. Without having this data, you're just basically crossing your fingers or making decisions, blindly. Yeah. So, that's a big one in terms of crop management, in terms of the changes that climate change is bringing there, and then also water resources, right? How to most effectively utilize that water, right? So the example was remote monitoring and control of irrigation systems, right? So if you have that information, you can then determine how much of the watering that you need to do on the crops and whatnot. And that helps kind of balance the changes that are happening with climate change.
So it's really adjusting what grows in the field based on the data that you capture from satellites.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Alexander, do you want to add maybe anything on that in regards to also how your company is tackling that?
Yeah, I think satellite imagery in general can support in both climate mitigation and adaptation. I think there are three use cases. The first is about understanding the past, kind of to understand our planet. The second one is about our present, about alerts, kind of monitoring solutions where satellite imagery can provide you up-to-date, near real-time insights for farmers trying to switch or practice restorative or regenerative agriculture. And the third layer is then anticipating the future, predicting what will be happening, accordingly adapting your policy on a governmental level, business models on a commercial sector, and of course best practices farming like uses for the farmers and for the farm associations. I think what is particularly exciting is now that with driving down the costs and making this technology widely available, that suddenly new geographical areas but also new user groups are being unlocked, which can make use of satellite imagery. And I think that's the exciting part which we can observe at the moment.
Amazing. And building on that, you also, we touched briefly on, life cycle assessment and now on future, right? How do you think, what do you think is the role of technology in helping us predict the future using, for instance, digital twins or, different type of tools that effectively project in the future with, algorithms and mathematical, models? Where do you think that technology is now, as far as satellite, imagery is concerned, in helping us predict what's ahead of us?
So right now, I think we just switching from risk models towards indeed predictive modeling. And at the moment, it's mostly like still businesses in North America and in Europe which can benefit from that. But for example, on the topic of deforestation, we're working together with the European Space Agency to not only do historical deforestation analysis or kind of assessing what is going wrong right now. We actually want to understand the root causes and accordingly build on these root causes to anticipate what will be happening in the future. Not in order to build higher fences, but actually to engage with the community and figure out of like, okay, how can we like also kind of mediate within the conflict of agriculture with forest protection. And something else, what we're particularly excited about is agroforestry. That's the combination of restorative agriculture with planting trees, whether it's productive trees or like just trees for carbon storage. I think this practice is so great on so many different levels. Like it's about water retention, it's about air quality, it's about food security, it's great jobs for local communities, but it's so difficult to handle. Like it's so complex, there's so much intrinsic knowledge required in order to operate this and operate it at scale where it becomes commercially viable. And I think there, satellite imagery, but also IoT technologies become more affordable, more accessible, which can actually allow us to handle this complexity, provide guidelines, provide actions, provide methodologies to farmers to actually execute on agroforestry at scale without having had to work on this field for 20, 30 years before operating in this. So that's
amazing. Thank you very much, Alex. David, to you, similar question, but more on the IoT and the satellite also side of things. How do you see the interaction of technology and the world of agriculture evolving in the foreseeable future? Alex mentioned, from risk to actually predictive modeling. What's your take on that?
Well, I think in general for satellite IoT is going to be really adopted within the agricultural community. I mean, we see that starting now, but if you look at, this is a market research data, but over the next 5 years, the market growth for satellite IoT in the agriculture sector is like 32% CAGR, which is, unbelievable.
You said 32%?
Yeah, 32%. So huge, the projections in terms of this technology being adopted is very significant. And we, in our business, we are actually seeing that now. We're at the beginning of that stage, and I think, again, it's back to what I was saying earlier, is that if we can drive the cost of this technology down, because satellite, as soon as you say the word satellite, everyone thinks, there's a conception here that says, oh my God, it's so expensive, right? And it's unaffordable. And that might have been true about 10 years ago, but I have to tell you now is that it is now, all of a sudden it's affordable. And so we're going to see satellite technology integrated with agriculture business operations, from equipment management to crop management, and it's going to be prolific.
Amazing, Dave, and I love the fact that you're touching on how is evolving, but also you are anchoring your findings as kindly they adjust your mic. Thanks for that. Into what is the reality today, right? Can you tell us a bit more about also the size of the clients you work with when it comes to managing, acres, I'm assuming, and when satellite imagery actually becomes really affordable, quote unquote, given the size of these businesses?
Yeah, so the agriculture business is, like I said, it's the biggest growth sector. And here's fun fact, is Brazil is one of the top 5 countries in agricultural production. They have 75 million hectares of farmland. And so when you look at that vastness of area that needs to cover, I mean, and satellite is just like, Captain Obvious is you really need satellite in order to effectively manage these vast areas.
There is. So yeah, this is the size now we're talking about, where it becomes mass adoption, right?
Yes, yeah.
Very, very big. Fantastic. Mark, let's move into the indoor farming world, right? How do you see the evolution of now the traditional agriculture world and the controlled environment world effectively colliding in a foreseeable future? If that is your view, or if you can share what's your view on that, really?
So I think colliding is the wrong word.
Okay.
It is a partnership, it is ecosystem, it is under no circumstances does it make sense that a vertical farm is going to replace. It's going to supplement, it's going to support, it's going to integrate. Some examples by that. You're not replacing a wheat farmer in Riyadh or a salad farmer in Riyadh.
Yeah.
They don't exist. The carbon footprint, or at least if they do, they're working very hard for not much reward. And a controlled environment agriculture, an indoor farm offers the ability to be able to do that. Now, wheat, I'm not saying is the panacea or where we are now, but where we are now with wheat is where we were 5 years ago with greens and herbs. So we're beginning the process. We're working with the leading scientists about how we can use our systems. And the Middle East is a wonderful example of how they can be used in that environment, differentiated from a Brazil, a Ukraine, or other areas where growing is not a problem. Where we supplement is greenhouses have challenges around nursery production of some of their crops. A seed, just like a baby, is its most vulnerable in its first months. In a controlled environment, we create the ecosystem to be able to have a very effective nursery for the large greenhouses, for the traditional environments, whether that be other forms of lettuce, whether that be tomatoes, whether that be strawberries, providing an indoor environment to put the baby fat on a plant to allow it to survive for the future is very interesting. We're doing a lot of work with existing forestry businesses, equally to use our farms to create healthier saplings. There is a significant issue around the survivability of the germination and then survivability of young trees. So this is not going to replace. This is going to be providing the means for existing businesses, existing farmers to adapt to their challenges and survive and thrive.
Absolutely, and I love that, Mark, because it effectively, kind of pictures an image of, complementarity to effectively bolster the food security agenda of different countries, right? In some places, we work with quite a few governments in the UAE, and we know that is, business critical to effectively become less dependent on imports. Thus, vertical farming is one solution, right? But I believe that in the future, you can actually work hand in hand also with traditional agricultural world, because you, as you said, you're a nursery, right? You are the experts in germination and sprouting, to the point that those can become more climate resilient, which ultimately is a problem that we're all effectively facing.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So, moving on into, I guess, the world of AI and all the emerging new technologies that come with that. Maybe we start with you, Mark, and we move on. What do you think is the role of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and likes? And what role do you think they will be playing in shaping the future of sustainable farming practices?
All right. So the key piece, we heard earlier that satellite technology is getting so much cheaper. The key driver for us is lights, is LEDs. the cheapness with which LEDs can be produced, the capacity for them to produce the photons at the same way as in all the spectrums we need, that's the real driver of the reason this works. And if it continues to follow the Moore law approach, then it's only ever going to get cheaper in what we're otherwise putting together. So that's the key part of the technological change and support that is driving. But we also need to be able to do more than that. And the Internet of Things and AI is going to be a key component. We've built our system so that it has entirely robotic. So it has a digital twin that tracks everything that goes on inside the farm, runs the robots, manages or receives in 50 data points for every minute, for every tray that every crop otherwise is experiencing through the entirety of its growth cycle. Lights are the key, and we've only just started building the algorithms and the light recipes to be able to produce more product that tastes nicer, that has higher nutrients, that has higher of whatever the demand of the buyer wants to be, through the adaptation of the 5 spectrums of light that are coming through our LEDs. So the more information our farms get, the longer they're running, the better the AI engines are going to be at starting to predict recipes that are going to improve our gross yield. So farmers of our systems buy our systems, they receive our hardware, they have the SaaS product that sits alongside it, that operates it, and then they have the benefit of the community of every one of our buyers, every data that every other farm is putting through, all centrally into a central database that is going to build the science of tomorrow.
Amazing. Dave, what's your role of emerging technologies in effectively playing or shaping, the future of your industry, and how you're using, maybe, we can start with AI or any other, emerging technology you're using?
So I think what Mark hit the nail on the head when he said the more data you have, right? The more data you have, the better decisions you can make. And, you're looking at, I think, the proliferation of more sensors that are out there, bringing that data back to the platform to do that analytics. But the sensors could be, out in the field, but also out integrated into the equipment itself, right? And like I mentioned, is that, we have applications now where we're plugged into the engine diagnostics port, so we can bring back data in terms of, oil pressures, temperatures, operational efficiencies, idle time, and whatnot. And then you have predictive analytics, which is applied in order to manage a maintenance cycle and to effectively address your equipment before the fault actually happens, right? So you want to be proactive instead of reactive. So it's, I think, in future is going to be more about getting as much data back in order to make the right decisions.
Amazing. After all these machines need to be fed with something, right? And data seems to be the enabler of greater discoveries and breakthrough. Alexander, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I think we all share the hope that AI will drive better decisions because of more reliable information. And I think it's particularly true where we operate in sectors which have been working with very simplified models, like just with the short-term optimization in mind. So now with more data, with AI, we hope that we can also assess the impact on the medium and long term, and not only look at one parameter, like let's say crop yields, but we also start looking into soil health, we look into biodiversity, we look into water, we also look into the effect of communities, like kind of incorporating peace and justice into this equation to truly make a digital twin around farming. I think that's like with the techno-optimistic view on AI, that's where I hope the journey will go.
And I love the fact that we close on a positive and an optimist note on also AI, given also all the headlines that we see these days on the media. Fantastic. As we're running out of time, I'm going to try to wrap up this session with I guess a thought-provoking question. As pioneers in the space and technology also world, what word of wisdom would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to make a positive impact from an environmental sustainability as well as in the agriculture space?
I spent 25 years in a bank before I joined. I think the
Okay.
first thing to do is start.
Start.
Just make the jump. The very first thing you can do, if you don't start, you're never going to get there. So start. Look at the ecosystems. You're not going to do it on your own. You've got to do it alongside people. You've got to have an ability to adapt, and you've got to focus at where you can deliver it against the value chain.
Amazing, Mark. Dave.
All right, one of my favorite quotes is from Abraham Lincoln, and that is, the best way to predict the future is to create it, right? And so the opportunity is to solve a problem, right? Solve a problem and understand that problem and make sure that that problem has value to the end customer, that they will pay for that, right? And have that solution, and then create that solution. My other advice would be keep it local, and it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be revolutionary. Just pick a problem, solve it, deploy it, and work out the kinks, and then look at deploying it further.
Create an impact at the local level, and then scale it up.
Exactly.
Making sure that you have a painkiller and not a vitamin, right?
Yeah.
Alexander.
Yeah, I think I can add to Dave, like fall in love with the problem, like, and love means that focus on something what you're truly passionate about, either because it makes you happy or it makes you really angry, because that's the fuel which is going to keep you going for the next 5, 10, sometimes 20 years. Because if you really want to drive change, that's not going to be something overnight. There's going to a lot of resistance. Like you have to create coalitions. That's going to take a lot of time and going to drain a lot of energy. Accordingly, you need something what just kind of gives you this energy, either because you love it or because it's really upsetting you. So that's my advice for you.
Amazing, Alex. On this note, please join me in thanking our esteemed guest for joining us today. Thank you very much.